Expecting them to be more like us is not going to help them contribute. They must do so in the way God has gifted them with, or else they must remain a wasted resource because of your prejudice. We mustn't become arrogant. All members of a body are necessary. They don't have to have the same particular gifts or ways of doing things as long as they're prepared to work with others. Now, that doesn't mean that every gift needs to be on public display, or should be. Verse 23. On the one hand, we should bestow greater honour on those parts of the body that we think less honourable. And how hard is that? Do we do that? They should not be left to feel second best. Even if functionally disabled or challenged in some way, you'd then have sensitivity to encourage them. But then on the other hand, verse 23b, the best presentable and so they should be treated with greater modesty. Literally, ornamental array, embellishment, serving to cover the unsightliness. In some cases, they can be the same members we were talking about earlier. What does it mean? Well, the more presentable members are to serve the less presentable, dress them up, whilst covering them from public display. So if someone has a tendency to say terribly foolish things in public, we might cover the transgression, but wisely, rightly, not afford them authority or a platform. And there are some gifts, and there were then even more, that if exercised publicly in a church service would cause just confusion and disorder. So where these gifts exist, they should be limited to operating behind the scenes or privately. Who is prepared to do something like go on a food hygiene course, food safety 1 and 2, like Suni did, so that we could have legally a kitchen to run and to feed the hungry if necessary? What about other compliance issues which ought to be addressed? It's just Romans 13 obedience. It's background work mainly. And by the way, the vehemently hostile attitude to the governing authorities that makes disobedience a virtue all the time is not Christian. Who has the gift of what I have? Please use it for intercession. God will answer the groans of your heart in the Spirit, but don't present it in a church setting. There are obvious boundaries. We're to use our minds as well as our spirit. A ground rule should be that spiritual gifts are not for competition or for self-glorying, ever a temptation at Corinth. There isn't room for boasting in self or in one's abilities or rightness. Instead, as a guard and remedy against that, we clothe those we think less honourable with greater honour. God takes special care of the less gifted, and so must we. Whereas our more presentable parts, literally those of good appearance, do not require such modesty. Verse 24. Word ministry, musical skills, social care, they're all eminently presentable in public. But that does not make them superior, and they must not make us puffed up. Rather, if someone's role seems to lack honour, the drudgery of cleaning or provision or accounting, perhaps, let's celebrate those members who do all the ground stuff to keep us going smoothly. And could you be one of those potentially? Mutual care should be intrinsic. I mean, whoever painted his own flesh, except somebody severely ill. We nourish and cherish one another. That's how God has composed us. He's blended, He's arranged the different parts to be mutually dependent. He's placed the gifts, and the members receiving them. He's placed within the body as He sees fit. And He doesn't make mistakes. Each of us is like a specific colour, making up a beautiful painting. And He's placed you in the midst of all that to complement it just right. Are you doing that? We want to interact in such a harmonious way that we banish division, verse 25, or schism. from the body. Going back to chapter 1, verse 10. Now I appeal to you, brothers and sisters, by the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that all of you be in agreement, and that there be no divisions among you, but that you be united in the same mind and the same purpose. And how is that possible? In a resolvedly free church? In a necessarily mixed fellowship? Prejudice is at the door. And in this context, the schism isn't doctrinal or traditional, which we've covered, but functional. We're not talking about heresy, which is a matter for separation, or practice, which is adaptable, but the acceptance of diverse gifts and abilities with mutual care and not suspicion or envy or self-glory.